Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to say this, but man, do I have a story for you? It's the kind of thing you hear about happening to other people, never imagining it could happen to you. But here I am, still reeling from the most insane experience of my life. Buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. It all started on what should have been just another ordinary Tuesday. I'm Tom, by the way, 42 years old, divorced, and up until recently, the proud owner of a modest but comfortable home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. I'd worked my ass off for years to pay off that mortgage, and let me tell you, the day I made that final payment was one of the best days of my life. So there I was, pulling into my driveway after a long day at work. I'm an IT specialist, which means I spend most of my days dealing with other people's computer problems. It can be frustrating, but it pays the bills, and I'm good at what I do. As I got out of my car, I noticed something odd. There was a moving truck parked in front of my house. At first, I thought maybe one of my neighbors was moving. But as I walked closer, I saw people carrying furniture into my house. My house? I blinked, rubbed my eyes, wondering if I was hallucinating from too much screen time. "Hey," I called out, jogging up to the nearest mover. "What's going on here?" The guy, a burly dude with a goatee, looked at me like I was the one out of place. "We're moving in the new owners," he said, hefting a box labeled kitchen onto his shoulder. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. New owners? There must be some mistake. This is my house. The mover shrugged, clearly not interested in getting involved in whatever drama was unfolding. "Look, man, I just moved the stuff where I'm told. You'll have to take it up with them." He nodded towards my front door, where a couple was standing, looking at me with a mix of confusion and annoyance. I marched up to them, my heart pounding. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "but I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. This is my house." The woman, a petite blonde probably in her early 30s, frowned. "I'm sorry, but that's not possible. We just bought this house. We have all the paperwork." Her husband, a tall guy with a receding hairline, stepped forward. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I'm Tom Patterson," I said, my frustration mounting. "I've lived here for the past 15 years. I own this house. It's fully paid off." The couple exchanged glances. "Well, Tom," the man said, his tone condescending, "I'm afraid you're mistaken. We purchased this house fair and square from the Sunnyside Estates Homeowners Association. I have the deed right here." He pulled out his phone, presumably to show me some digital document. I held up my hand. Wait. Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association? I'm not even a member of any homeowner association. This has to be some kind of scam. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Are you accusing us of something? We did everything by the book. If you have a problem, take it up with the homeowner association." I felt like I was in some kind of twisted nightmare. How could this be happening? "Look," I said, trying to stay calm, "I don't know what's going on here, but I can prove this is my house. I have my own deed, my mortgage documents, everything. Can we please stop this moving process until we figure this out?" The husband sighed, clearly annoyed. Fine. We'll call the homeowner association president and sort this out. But I'm warning you, if this is some kind of joke or scam, we'll be calling the police." I almost laughed at the irony. They thought I was the scammer, but I bit my tongue and nodded. "Fair enough. Let's get to the bottom of this." As the husband made the call, I ran to my car and grabbed my own documentation from the glove compartment. I always kept copies there, just in case. When I returned, the homeowner association president had apparently agreed to come over immediately to address the situation. While we waited, the movers continued to bring in furniture and boxes, despite my protests. I felt helpless watching strangers handle their belongings in what I knew was my home. The couple, who introduced themselves as Brian and Sarah Thompson, stood awkwardly on the front lawn with me, an uncomfortable silence hanging over us. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only about 20 minutes, a sleek black SUV pulled up. A man in his 50s, wearing an expensive-looking suit, stepped out. He had the air of someone used to being in charge. "I'm Robert Kensington, president of the Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association," he announced as he approached us. "What seems to be the problem here?" Before I could speak, Brian jumped in. "This man," he said, pointing at me, "is claiming that this is his house, but we just bought it from your homeowner association." Kensington turned to me, his expression a mixture of confusion and irritation. "And you are?" "I'm Tom Patterson," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I've owned this house for 15 years. It's fully paid off, and I have never been a member of any homeowner association. There's been a huge mistake." Kensington's brow furrowed. "Mr. Patterson, I can assure you there's no mistake. This property was legally acquired by our homeowner association due to unpaid dues and fines. We then sold it to the Thompsons here in a completely above-board transaction." I felt like I was going to explode. "Unpaid dues? Fines? What are you talking about? I've never owed your homeowner association a single cent because I'm not a member." Kensington's face hardened. Mr. Patterson, every homeowner in Sunnyside Estates is automatically a member of our homeowner association. It's in the deed restrictions. If you failed to pay your dues or comply with our regulations, that's on you. I shook my head vehemently. No, you're not listening. I am not part of Sunnyside Estates. My house is on Elm Street, which is a separate neighborhood. We've never had an homeowner association. For the first time, Kensington looked uncertain. He pulled out his own phone and started scrolling through some documents. That can't be right, he muttered. Oh, it's right, I said, my anger finally boiling over. And I can prove it. I thrust my own documentation at him. Here's my deed, my mortgage papers, everything. This house is mine, free and clear. You had no right to sell it. Kensington's face paled as he looked over my documents. The Thompsons, who had been listening to this exchange with growing concern, stepped closer. Mr. Kensington, Sarah said, her voice shaky. What's going on? Is this true? Kensington looked up, his expression a mixture of shock and something else. Was that fear? I need to make some calls, he stammered. There's clearly been some kind of misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I exploded. You sold my house without my knowledge or consent. That's not a misunderstanding. That's theft. Brian, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. If this is true, we've been scammed too. We paid good money for this house. Kensington held up his hands in a placating gesture. Please, everyone calm down. I'm sure we can sort this out. Mr. Patterson, if you'll just give me a little time. Time? I interrupted. You want time? While these people are moving into my home? No way. We're calling the police right now. And that's exactly what I did. As Kensington protested weakly and the Thompsons looked on in growing distress, I dialed cop and reported that my house had been fraudulently sold without my knowledge. What followed was a blur of activity. Police cars arrived, followed by detectives. The moving was halted, much to the annoyance of the movers who just wanted to finish their job and get paid. Statements were taken, documents examined, and phone calls made. As the reality of the situation began to sink in, I found myself in a surreal position. I was standing on my own front lawn, watching police officers enter and exit my house, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The Thompsons, who I had initially seen as intruders, now looked as shell-shocked as I felt. They were victims in this too, I realized. I'm so sorry, Sarah said to me at one point, her eyes brimming with tears. We had no idea. We thought we were just buying our dream home. I nodded, feeling a mix of sympathy and exhaustion. It's not your fault, I said. You got caught up in this just like I did. As the day wore on, more and more details came to light. It turned out that Kensington, as president of the Sunnyside Estates Homeowner Association, had been engaging in some seriously shady practices. He had been expanding the homeowner association's territory without proper authorization, claiming homes that weren't actually part of the association. Then he'd been fabricating violations and dues, using them as justification to seize and sell properties. My house, it seemed, was just the latest in a string of fraudulent sales. The detective in charge, a no-nonsense woman named Rodriguez, explained it to me as we sat in my living room, a room now half filled with the Thompsons' furniture. From what we can tell, she said, her notebook open on her knee, Kensington has been running this scam for at least a year. He's been pocketing the profits from the sales, using the homeowner association as a front for his personal enrichment. I shook my head in disbelief. But how did he get away with it for so long? Surely someone must have noticed. Detective Rodriguez sighed. Homeowner associations have a lot of power, Mr. Patterson. Many people don't fully understand their rights when it comes to these organizations. Kensington took advantage of that ignorance. Plus, he was careful to target homes where the owners were often away, people who traveled for work, had second homes, that sort of thing. But I work from home half the time, I protested. How did he think he'd get away with selling my house? He got greedy, Rodriguez said simply. Your home was valuable, fully paid off. He probably thought he could push through the sale quickly and be gone before anyone noticed. He just didn't count on you coming home when you did. The irony wasn't lost on me. If I'd decided to work late that day, or stop for groceries on the way home, I might have come back to find strangers living in my house with no idea how they got there. As the initial shock wore off, the real nightmare began, navigating the legal mess that Kensington had created. The Thompsons, understandably, wanted their money back. They'd sunk their life savings into buying my house. But the homeowner association's accounts were empty. Kensington had apparently been transferring the funds to offshore accounts. I found myself caught in a legal battle that I never asked for, and certainly couldn't afford. My savings, which I'd been so proud of after paying off my mortgage, quickly dwindled as I hired a lawyer to help me untangle this mess. Weeks turned into months. The Thompsons were forced to find temporary housing while the courts sorted out the ownership issue. I was allowed to stay in my home, but living there felt different. The sense of security I'd always felt within those walls was gone. Every time I heard a car pull up outside, I felt a jolt of panic, wondering if someone else was coming to claim my home. The stress took its toll on every aspect of my life. My work suffered. It's hard to focus on fixing other people's computer problems when your own life is in shambles. I lost weight, developed insomnia, Some days, it was all I could do to get out of bed and face another day of uncertainty. But slowly, painfully, things began to move forward. Kensington was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, theft, and money laundering. As the investigation deepened, more victims came forward. It turned out that my house wasn't the only one he'd illegally sold. The scale of his scam was staggering. The day I sat in the courtroom and watched Kensington plead guilty was both satisfying and surreal. This man, who had caused so much chaos in my life and the lives of others, looked small and defeated in his orange jumpsuit. As the judge read out his sentence, 15 years in federal prison, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It wasn't over, not by a long shot, but at least justice was being served. The aftermath of Kensington's scam was messy, to say the least. The courts had to unravel years of fraudulent transactions. For those whose homes had been sold, like mine, the process of reclaiming ownership was long and complicated. The Thompsons and other buyers who had unknowingly purchased stolen properties had to fight to get their money back. Through it all, I found an unlikely ally in Brian and Sarah Thompson. What had started as an adversarial relationship, after all, they were the ones who had unknowingly tried to move into my house, evolved into a friendship born of shared trauma. We were all victims of Kensington's greed, and we bonded over our determination to see justice done. "I still can't believe this happened," Sarah said to me one day, as we sat in a coffee shop near the courthouse, waiting for yet another hearing. "How could one person cause so much damage?" I shook my head, stirring my now cold coffee. I ask myself that every day, but I guess when people get a little power, some of them just can't resist abusing it. Brian nodded grimly. "And to think, we thought joining an homeowner association would protect our property values. Instead, it almost cost us everything." As the legal proceedings dragged on, I found myself becoming something of an activist. I started a support group for Kensington's victims, connecting people who were going through the same nightmare I was. We shared resources, offered emotional support, and presented a united front in our quest for justice. I also began researching homeowner association laws, determined to understand how this could have happened and how to prevent it from happening again. I was shocked to discover how much power these organizations wielded, often with little oversight. It became clear to me that the system was ripe for abuse by people like Kensington. With the help of a local councilwoman who had taken an interest in our case, I started pushing for changes in local homeowner association regulations. We proposed measures to increase transparency, limit the power of homeowner association boards, and provide better protections for homeowners. "You've become quite the crusader, my lawyer," a sharp-witted woman named Janet commented during one of our meetings. "Who would have thought this whole ordeal would turn you into a community activist?" I laughed ruefully. "Believe me, this is the last thing I ever expected to be doing with my life. But if I can help prevent this from happening to someone else, it'll all be worth it." Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was actually about 18 months, the court reached its final decision. My ownership of the house was fully restored, and I was awarded compensation for the emotional distress and legal expenses I'd incurred. The Thompsons and other unknowing buyers were to be reimbursed from the seized assets of Kensington and the fraudulent homeowner association. The day I received the final court documents confirming my ownership, I sat on my front porch, and cried. They were tears of relief, of exhaustion, of vindication. As I sat there, Sarah Thompson pulled up in front of my house. "I heard the news," she said, joining me on the porch. "Congratulations, Tom. You finally got your house back." I nodded, wiping my eyes. "Thanks, Sarah. I heard you and Brian are getting your money back too. Any plans for it?" She smiled wryly. "Well, we're definitely not buying in an homeowner association neighborhood, that's for sure. We're thinking of building our own place, actually. Somewhere without any nosy neighbors telling us what color we can paint our front door." I laughed. "Sounds perfect. You'll have to invite me to the housewarming." As Sarah left, I looked out at my quiet street. It looked the same as it always had, but everything felt different. I had my house back, yes, but I'd gained so much more. A new understanding of the law, a passion for homeowners' rights, and friendships forged in the fire of shared adversity. The next day, I woke up early, brewed a pot of coffee, and sat down at my computer. I opened a new document and began to type. Homeowner Association Horror Stories, a survivor's guide to protecting your home and your rights. As I wrote, I felt a sense of purpose that had been missing from my life for a long time. This ordeal had changed me, challenged me, and ultimately made me stronger. And if sharing my story could help even one person avoid the nightmare I'd been through, it would all be worth it. The sun rose higher in the sky as I typed, casting a warm glow through my windows, in my house, that nobody could ever take away from me again. I smiled, took a sip of coffee, and kept writing. There was work to be done, and I was ready to do it. Update. It's been about 5 years since the whole homeowner association nightmare began, and I've got to say, life has taken some unexpected turns. After my book Homeowner Association, Horror Stories hit the shelves, things really started to change, not just for me but for homeowners across the state. The book became something of a local bestseller. I guess a lot of people could relate to dealing with overbearing homeowner associations. I started getting invited to speak at community meetings and even a few local TV shows. It was weird being in the spotlight, but I knew this was my chance to make a real difference. One day, I got a call from State Senator Lisa Johansson. She'd read my book and wanted to meet to discuss potential legislation to curb homeowner association abuses. I nearly dropped my phone in shock. We met at a local diner. Senator Johansson was younger than I expected, maybe in her early 40s, with a no-nonsense attitude that I appreciated. "Mr. Patterson," she said as we sat down, "your story has shed light on a problem that's been flying under the radar for too long. I want to work with you on drafting a bill to prevent these abuses from happening again." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Senator, I'm just an IT guy who wrote a book. I don't know the first thing about drafting legislation." She smiled. "That's why you have me. What you bring to the table is real-world experience and a connection to the people this bill will protect. Are you in?" Was I in? You bet I was in. The next few months were a whirlwind of meetings, research, and more legal jargon than I ever wanted to know. We called our proposed law the Homeowners Protection Act. Its main points included stricter oversight of homeowner association boards, including regular audits, limits on homeowner associations' ability to foreclose on homes, clearer processes for disputing homeowner association decisions, mandatory education for homeowner association board members on their legal responsibilities. Getting the bill through the state legislature was like trying to push a boulder uphill. The homeowner association lobby, there's actually an homeowner association lobby, fought us every step of the way. They argued that our bill would make it impossible for homeowner associations to function effectively. But we had something they didn't: real stories from real people. At every hearing, we brought in homeowners who'd been screwed over by their homeowner associations. Some had lost their homes over ridiculous violations. Others had been bankrupted by endless fines. Each story chipped away at the opposition's arguments. The day of the final vote, I sat in the gallery of the state capitol, my heart pounding. As the votes were tallied, I held my breath. And then, the ayes have it. The bill passes? The gallery erupted in cheers. I looked around at the faces of the other homeowners who'd come to support the bill. There were tears, hugs, and lots of big smiles. We'd done it. After the vote, Senator Johansson found me in the hallway. "We did it, Tom," she said, grinning. "This wouldn't have happened without you." I shook my head. "I just told my story. You did all the hard work." "Don't sell yourself short," she replied. "Your story started this, but your dedication saw it through. So what's next for you?" I laughed. "Honestly, I have no idea." As it turned out, next was a lot bigger than I could have imagined. News of our bill spread, and soon I was getting calls from homeowners and lawmakers in other states. They wanted advice on how to pass similar laws in their own states. Before I knew it, I was traveling around the country, sharing our experience and helping other states draft their own homeowners protection acts. It was exhausting, but incredibly rewarding. Back home, things were changing too. Remember the Thompsons? They finally built that house they talked about. No homeowner association in sight. They invited me to their housewarming party. And let me tell you, that front door was painted the brightest shade of purple you've ever seen. It was awesome. As for Robert Kensington, karma wasn't done with him yet. About 3 years into his sentence, some of his former business associates came forward with new information. Turns out, the homeowner association scam was just the tip of the iceberg. He'd been involved in all sorts of shady deals over the years. The prosecutors reopened the case, and Kensington ended up pleading guilty to a whole new set of charges. His 15-year sentence got bumped up to 25. Last I heard, he was trying to write his own book from prison. Good luck with that, buddy. On a personal note, all this activism led to an unexpected turn in my love life. At a homeowners' rights conference in Chicago, those exist now, I met Diane. She was a lawyer specializing in property rights, and we hit it off right away. After a year of long-distance dating, she moved to our town and we got married in a small ceremony in my backyard. No homeowner association to tell us we couldn't. Life has a funny way of working out sometimes. 5 years ago, I was just a regular guy with a regular job, living in my quiet little house. Now, I'm an author, an activist, and apparently some kind of homeowners' rights expert. I still do IT work on the side. Old habits die hard, I guess. But the best part? The changes we're seeing? Since our law passed, homeowner association complaints in the state have dropped by 60%. Other states that have passed similar laws are seeing the same results. It's not perfect. There are still bad homeowner associations out there, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. I still live in the same house. After everything that happened, some people asked me why I didn't move. The truth is, this house means more to me now than ever. It's not just a building anymore. It's a symbol of what can happen when people stand up for what's right. The other day, I was out mowing my lawn when a car pulled up. A young couple got out looking nervous. "Excuse me," the woman said. "Are you Tom Patterson?" I nodded, wondering what this was about. "We're about to close on a house in an homeowner association neighborhood," she explained. "But we read your book, and now we're having second thoughts. Do you have any advice?" I turned off the mower and smiled. I've got some time if you'd like to chat, I said, gesturing to my porch. As we sat down, I couldn't help but feel grateful. Grateful for my home, for the changes we'd made, and for the chance to help others avoid the nightmare I went through. Life isn't perfect. There are still battles to be fought and problems to solve. But sitting there on my porch, talking to this young couple about how to protect their rights, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Whatever challenges come next, I know I'm ready for them. And I know I'm not alone. There's a whole community of homeowners out there, standing up for their rights and looking out for each other. As the sun started to set, I wrapped up my conversation with the young couple. They left with smiles on their faces, armed with knowledge and feeling more confident about their decision. I stood up and looked out at my neighborhood. The same streets, the same houses, but so much had changed. And as I walked back inside my home that nobody could ever take away, I couldn't help but smile. Yeah, life has a funny way of working out sometimes. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.